You know, in the world of software development, it feels like speed is everything. Agile completely changed the game, right? It lets teams build and ship working software faster than we ever thought possible. But in this constant race to innovate, have we maybe overlooked something really, really important?
Because think about it. When we make speed and just getting features out the door the number one priority, well, we can accidentally build things that cause real problems for real people. And that sets up this huge tension between how fast we're developing and the ethical ripple effects of what we create.
Let's make this concrete. Take a look at something like same-day delivery. Now, for the shopper, this is amazing. It promotes a value we can call freedom or convenience. But what about the person on the other end? For the supplier or the delivery driver, that exact same feature can absolutely crush their work-life balance. This is exactly the kind of ethical trade-off that just gets lost in the shuffle of a normal, fast-paced development sprint. Okay, so let's really get into this. Today, we're going to explore a new framework that's built to solve this exact problem. We'll kick things off by digging into Agile's ethical blind spot. Then we'll look at why the old rulebooks don't quite cut it anymore. After that, we'll introduce this new idea called ethical software engineering, see how it actually works, and wrap up by thinking about what this all means for the future of code. All right. First up, let's look at why the very things that make Agile so incredibly effective are also, kind of ironically, the source of this whole ethical challenge. This line, which really captures the spirit of the original Agile manifesto, hits the nail on the head. Look, the manifesto was a complete game changer, no doubt about it. It got teams focused on what mattered, delivering stuff that actually worked. But the main way to measure success was simple. Did the software function? Not, was it good for society or was it good for the planet? And that's really our jumping off point. So, you might be wondering, how did we even get here? It's not like nobody's ever thought about ethics in tech before. The issue is really where those ethics guidelines live, which brings us to what some researchers are calling the passive knowledge problem. And when you look at this timeline, the problem becomes crystal clear. You see these foundational codes of ethics from groups like the ACM. They were mostly written before Agile took over the world in 2001. And that created this huge gap, this major disconnect. You've got these high-level, abstract principles over here, and then you've got the super fast, heads-down reality of a developer's daily work over there, and almost nothing connecting the two. And this is the absolute key. The old way treated ethics as passive knowledge. It's a code of conduct sitting on some dusty corner of a website or in a PDF somewhere. A busy engineer slammed with deadlines has to remember to go pull that information when and if they think they need it. The new way flips that entirely. It's about active guidance, where ethical questions are pushed directly into the daily workflow, making them totally unmissable. It becomes a mandatory part of the job. So this brings us to the solution on the table, a super practical framework that's designed to inject this active guidance right into the way Agile teams already work. It's called ethical software engineering. At its heart, ethical software engineering, let's call it ESE, is a method that seriously changes the game. And listen, it's not about tossing Agile out the window. Not at all. It's about giving it a critical upgrade. ESE makes the act of talking about, identifying, and prioritizing ethical values a required step, just as required as writing the code or running the tests. And here's a bird's-eye view of how it works. You can see that a lot of the standard Agile stuff you know, the product backlog, sprint planning, it all stays the same. But the key is that ESE plugs in two brand new practices, story valuation and an ethical review. And it enhances a few others, basically weaving ethical thinking right into the fabric of the process. Okay, so that's the big idea. But what does this actually look like for a development team on, a regular Tuesday morning? Let's get practical. This right here might be one of the most powerful changes ECSE brings to the table. It actually modifies the standard user story that every Agile team uses every single day. So after you define the who, what, and why, it adds two new clauses. One forces you to name the positive values your feature promotes. And the second, and this is so important, it makes you explicitly acknowledge which values might be harmed or reduced. All of a sudden, those tricky trade-offs are right there in black and white, impossible to ignore. And to help teams actually fill out that new template, ESE gives you a toolkit. You can start with a simple, huge question like, how does this actually make the world a better place? You can hold a value jam session where you really dive deep into the values of the person you're building for, or you can use an existing catalog of values as a starting point to just get the conversation rolling. So let's bring it back to our same-day delivery example. Using this ESCA user story, a team would now have to write something like this.
so that the shopper's convenience is achieved and that the value of freedom is promoted, accepting that the value of work-life balance for our suppliers is reduced. Just the act of writing that sentence forces a conversation that, let's be honest, probably would have never happened before.
The other huge addition from ESE is a brand new checkpoint. So at the end of a sprint, when you're doing your normal review to see if the feature works, the team also holds an ethical review. This is a meeting specifically to look at the finished product and see if it actually lives up to the ethical values and trade-offs that were defined right at the very beginning. And during this review, the team starts asking some really direct, really human questions. It's not just, does it work? It's things like, would you be okay with your own family using this? And does building this conflict with our own personal values? This just completely shifts the conversation from abstract ideas to real personal accountability. And this chart is where it all clicks. You can really see how ESE acts as that missing bridge we talked about. It takes these formal, high-level processes from an industry ethics standard, things like ethical values elicitation, and it maps them directly onto concrete, everyday Agile practices like writing user stories. It finally makes the big ideas practical.
So let's zoom out. What's the big picture here? What could all this mean for the future of software? And maybe more importantly, for the people who spend their lives building it?
If you remember one thing from all of this, let it be this. It's about a fundamental shift in how we think. Ethics is no longer a document that you read once when you get hired. It becomes an active tool, a lens that you use every single day to look at every feature, every line of code, and every single decision you make. This statement is so powerful because it reframes the job itself. The goal isn't just to ship software that delivers value, it's to deliver that value responsibly, with a clear understanding of the potential impact on people and the world. It puts the responsibility and the power right in the hands of the creator. And that brings us to one last big provocative thought. ESC helps us build ethics into the process as we go. But what if we took it even one step further? What if we used these very tools to vet the ethics of an idea before a project even gets the green light? Maybe before we ever write a single line of code, the most important question isn't, can we build this? But should we?